They tried to stop us, but we found everything anyway. Let's talk about Apple's newest leaks.
Welcome to the All Future Podcast, where we talk all things Apple, tech, and general future throughout the week, or sometimes even robo-taxis. We just did an episode on that. That was fun.
Love some robo-taxis.
Yeah. If you're subscribed, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching these videos. If you're not subscribed, we would appreciate that subscribe and also just watching the videos. We're bringing these out throughout the week. So today we're talking about Apple's leaks and the event coming up, which is the next big thing for them. It's coming up as little as 1 week from when this episode's going up, if not less. And the main headline is the M4 refresh of all their computers. And this was going to be kind of the same as last year's Scary Fast event, which I think they upgraded everything to M3 at. And here we're making the jump to M4, which is just, I guess, putting all their computers in line with the iPad Pro at this point, which already has that M4. So technically, when you look at it, I'm sure there's differences with RAM, but a MacBook Air today is maybe slower than the iPad Pro is. So even if it's not, mentally, it's weird to see an M3 on the more expensive computer than the iPad Pro. So Apple is going to be updating all of these computers to M4. The iMac, the MacBook Pro, but the one that Matt can't wait for, counting down the days for, is the Mac Mini.
Very exciting. Hope it's in there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I'm a little worried that a full casing or something hasn't been revealed, like leaked for it yet, or something like that. I was like, oh, maybe we're not going to see it this time. Here, off the top, I'll ask you this: do you think they're going to do a full event here, or is it a press release, or what do you think is going to happen?
Well, the rumors are, the latest ones are that it's going to be, I think probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they do a live stream, but it's a short, like 25-minute live stream, and it's not an in-person event. Reportedly, they've been holding and scheduling like influencer time slots on the same day that they're going to hold this event. And then, so it's probably holding the event and then showing these people the products specifically, as opposed to holding a live in-person event. That seems to be more of the technique here. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, do they need to hold a whole thing at Cupertino for a processor refresh on their computers? Probably not. And in this case, they can hand those influencers that hopeful new Mac Mini.
Hopefully. We'll see. We'll see. You know what else is coming, though?
Yeah?
This might be just as important as this new Mac Mini. Full conversion to USB-C.
Ooh,
full conversion.
finally.
Yes, like so. And in this case, we're talking about the trackpad, mouse, and keyboard, which have been Lightning, and now goodbye Lightning. Goodbye Lightning. We hardly knew you. We knew you too well, actually. But yeah, going the way of the 30-pin connector and the Apple bus port and all this other kind of weird things that are going now. FireWire. Man, that's a big deal. I remember FireWire.
Yeah, 400 and 800.
400 and 800. Yeah, it had the little. I had the little adapter, so I could go between them.
Man, do you remember capturing from a camera, like a mini DV camera?
Yeah, mini DV
into FireWire.
Into FireWire. Yeah. My first year of film school, like that's what they gave the freshman kids. Like, so that's what I had like to shoot on. And I remember going to my instructor. And this is already like after like kind of like the 5D revolution and stuff like that, like DSLR shooting film. And I was like, "Did you have to shoot on this thing?" He's like, "Nah, man." And then so we show our first projects, and mine looks like cinematic, and it was like, "What the hell?" And I was like, "Sorry, kids. Should have joined the military for 10 years, and you could have bought your own camera too." But yeah, getting rid of USB or getting rid of Lightning in favor of USB-C. Yeah, cool event. I'm excited about this. I get why they don't make a big fanfare about this. Like, the Macs are, such like a small portion of the overall Apple system now, but I'm into it. I'm excited.
Yeah. So for that keyboard and those two different mouse options, do you think anything else is changing besides USB-C?
Probably not, right?
Yeah.
And I guess, well, look, the Magic Mouse is still like an insane mouse. Always been an insane mouse, like since the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever been really, really well designed. The kind of like the touch aspect of it's never really worked super effective. And if anything, when it first came out, it would like, its palm detection was really bad, and sometimes you like start scrolling because you like hold it weird or something, and your palm would hit it. Always been a terrible mouse. Apple famously has always made really bad mouse. The one before that is the one that just had that little ball scroll wheel. Do you remember that thing?
Yeah.
That thing sucked. The
Mighty Mouse. That was
Mighty
the
Mouse.
Mighty
Yeah,
Mouse.
yeah. Jeez. And then famously the hockey puck mouse, the circular mouse with that thing was kind of
Yeah.
wild. Like, they've always seemed to just make a thing that looked cool and not necessarily a thing that functioned super well. So I'd love to see some crazy redesign of the mouse. Probably not happening.
Yeah, it's still going to charge from the bottom.
Yeah.
with USB-C now.
For sure. Yeah.
That's a very Apple thing to do, just to keep it oh, no, it's fine. It's great.
Yeah.
No one actually cares. Just throw in a USB-C.
It's crazy.
Have you seen the images of how, like, people saying how they would make you charge your electric car and it's just upside down with the...
I have not seen that, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because if they made an Apple car, that's where you would charge it, is on the bottom. In any case, those are all the products that are supposed to be coming at this event, which seems to be just some sort of live stream. And then we'll get some embargoed influencer videos around the same time. But the product that is not coming next week is a very, very interesting patent from Apple, which is kind of in the realm of Apple Vision. And it's an iPhone that just goes on your face. So it's like goggles. They have a patent for goggles that you wear, and then you slide your iPhone into them. And this flashes me right back to Google Cardboard.
Sure.
Did you ever play with Google Cardboard?
Yeah. I mean, this has been around for forever. Like the kind of like DIY VR set, which is like a thing to slide your phone into.
And then it just splits it down the middle, and
Yeah. It's crazy. This is none of those things I feel like Apple just patented, so they have a patent. And this is where you get like the nuances of patents are so weird, because obviously this exact thing has been made before. Nintendo had it with the Switch Labo. Did you know that? Like the Nintendo Switch Labo, which was like, it was just like Google Cardboard. It's like a cardboard setup, and you can like put the Switch in front of it. This, supposedly it has some language in the patent that makes it a little more unique, so they could actually patent it. Like there's sensors within the goggles to make the movements better, or tracking, all this kind of stuff. But okay, cool. Like I don't think this is something Apple's ever going to make. But neat.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it could utilize the phone that you already have, save on cost and all this stuff, but the displays wouldn't be good enough. Now that they've made the Apple Vision, it's like they can't go back to that full, like, I don't know, like thrown together solution is what it would feel like. You never really see Apple doing that, where you integrate their product with another product that they make to get your product. It's like they make it all in one thing, right?
Yeah, I can't. Now you're like taxing my Apple history knowledge. I can't think of anything that has worked in that way. Nothing, right?
Yeah.
Apple has certainly made things that their device is kind of plugged into, but not exactly. The Hi-Fi Stereo comes to mind, which was like a iPod docking system.
Okay.
Probably maybe the closest thing to this.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
The Power CD had a docking mechanism to it, so you could use it kind of like as a Discman, and then as a CD-ROM connected to your computer, because it would like have this dock thing. That's all. I don't know. iPod sock, maybe. I don't know.
Dude, I love the iPod socks.
Yeah. So I can't think of anything that really matched this. So I don't think this is an actual product they're going to make. I think they're just patenting the tech to protect themselves from patent trolls and things like that.
Yeah. But coming up next, probably early next year, is the iPhone SE 4. And this may not sound that exciting, because for a lot of people watching this podcast, most likely, you probably are not going to be buying an SE. You might have. I guess I'm assuming here, but I feel
making a lot of assumptions.
I feel like a lot of our viewers probably. We're talking about Apple Intelligence so much, they're probably already there. But I could be entirely wrong. And if I'm very wrong, this is exciting, because this phone will have Apple Intelligence, which is the big headline of this iPhone SE 4. It's the cheapest iPhone. It will be when it comes out, under $500. And it will have a 6.1-inch screen, the True Depth notch, so they're not going with the Dynamic Island. It's more of an iPhone 14 style on the notch, one camera on the back, and then big bezel, no home button, so that's a big change from the current SE. Face ID, 48-megapixel camera on the back, so just one, but very functional. 12-megapixel front-facing camera, USB-C. Of course, they're not making any more phones with Lightning at this point. And then 8 gigabytes of RAM in the A18 chip, which is what enables Apple Intelligence. I'm actually pretty excited about this, because it just expands who can use Apple Intelligence.
Yeah, and I don't. Apple's never going to make a phone from here on out that's not Apple Intelligence capable, right? That'd be insane. Yeah, this seems like a great phone for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And most SEs, a lot of times they're people think it's like phones people get their kids and stuff like that. So it's kind of just saving some money. But this I think is going to be a solid phone for a lot of people. And I mean, me like I'm excited. We talked about kind of the other piece to this maybe next year, the iPhone 17 Air, whatever they're going to kind of call it, kind of a in between baseline and pro model. I'm kind of into that. And when you look at this, kind of following in that range, it's basically like, oh, it's got a lot of stuff you need, maybe not as powerful, but certainly powerful enough to do AI stuff, a little slimmed down. I think the difference between this and say the Air is that this is not going to have a fancy design. It's going to have a pretty utilitarian design. I actually think it's interesting having like just that one camera lens on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a great phone for a lot of people and a good move on Apple's part just to fill out the line, right?
Yeah, Q1 of 2025 is supposed to be that launch. So, I mean, at this point, if you've been wanting Apple Intelligence, but you didn't want to upgrade yet, or you just don't want to pay for one of the bigger phones, this should be able to deliver pretty much the same functionality. I would assume in like maybe a year or two, we'd start seeing a separation where it's like, oh, this is pretty slow on the SE versus the Pro really takes care of these AI tasks quickly. But I think it's going to be a little time before we get there as they're slowly rolling out Apple Intelligence features.
Yeah, for sure. And but I mean, and this phone is going to be the ones that the carriers give away for free with like any trade in or whatever, like all those like deals they do, So they're going to move a lot of these phones, which is good for Apple to just put the new Apple Intelligence ecosystem in front of as many people as possible.
Speaking of new Apple products, the Apple Vision Pro, there's a new app that was shown online. And it actually appears to be a fake app. It's just a very cool demo of something they could do with the Apple Vision or something we could see with future AR glasses. And this is like skins for the world. So this person is walking around an environment and then they switch to a reskin of the world around them and immediately puts them like in a snowy environment or on a ship and all these different things. It looks pretty cool. Definitely a very cool demo. But do we want this?
Jesus, no. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This is the worst thing I can imagine. Is everyone walking around and not seeing the real world? To what end? To what end would you make this, right? Like it's for you to be more disconnected from reality?
Yeah.
That is terrible. Terrible. This only makes sense if you get to a section at Disneyland has it, so you can see some X-wings flying around or something, right? Like to use this in the real world. Like the person who would want to be that disconnected from the real environment they're in, I wouldn't want to be friends with that person, man. like if you're in a place because what are the options here? Okay, let's just use it throughout the day, right? Like man, I drive through South LA all the time. I know it looks like a dystopian hellscape down there, and yeah. That makes me very engaged in my community and talking to my councilman and trying to figure out solutions and knowing what the realities of this world are. So, boom, hate that for that kind of thing, right? So use case one, not seeing things that you find unpleasant. Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
Use case two, and the use case in this video. This guy's at some like beautiful like amusement park boardwalk.
Yeah,
and then he's like, you know what would improve this experience? If it looked like Minecraft. What? Like that's your other use case, is that you're at a thing that does contain a beautiful example of our world and our human civilization. And you decide that that's not good enough for you because you want to live in some insane bubble.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Get out of here with this, man. I'm on record many times as saying that like there's like I've never said this on the podcast, but like things I talk about all the time with people randomly at bars or whatever. I'm like, I never want to live in a house that no one died in. Like I always like every place I live in old buildings. That's where I live at because it makes me feel like I'm a human, man. Like it is a place built with soul, and there may be a literal soul there. I'm into that, right? Man, I love a bar with a sawdust floor. right? That they have to like scoop out every week because someone's got in a fight and there's blood on it, right? Like that's what I'm into, man. I'm into feeling alive. And this thing that like just lets more people in our society, which is already so insular, which is already retreating into these digital worlds, retreating into our own bubbles, block that even more, right? Like you're driving around, you're like, well, I don't want to see political signs from someone I disagree with. Boom, this thing can block that, right? Like, or something real evil and weird, like, oh, I don't want to see a certain type of person. Boom, it blocks that person. Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a literal Black Mirror episodes about this. This is a terrible technology. I assume this guy on TikTok made this specifically so people like me could be enraged and leave comments. But yeah, I'm out on this.
I also think it's funny because any demo like this has to do this basically, but you don't have to go out in front of you like this to tap on the Apple Vision. It can see all around you, you know.
Dude, like a couple weeks ago when I was using your Apple Vision and you're showing some demos and I'm doing this because that's what I always see. And you're like, what are you doing, man? Let's get cameras all, you can just like have your hand down here.
Yeah,
like stop looking like a weirdo.
Yeah, I find it pretty funny. But let me go for, I totally agree with you. So let me go.
You're going to devil advocate me right now?
I'll devil's advocate.
Okay.
Yeah, for the technology itself. For one, this could be cool for games.
Yeah.
You're in your normal living room. It reskins your room, and then you have a game. I think that's quite
Void
cool.
VR does that. I don't know if you've been to a Void thing. Like it's like a whatever. You can be a stormtrooper, and everyone's wearing VR goggles, and you're really in this empty room with a bunch of foam walls, but you see Star Wars. Yeah, cool on that. I'm cool on that. Yeah.
And then the other use case is something along the lines of like hearing aids, but for eyes.
Yeah. Okay. That's a 88 stuff. Yes. Brilliant. I love it. And that's something that's definitely going to happen with AR things.
Yeah.
Right?
And I've never really thought about that, but it's not just glasses. It's like actually can learn your eyes and it, light up stuff that needs lighting up.
Sure. I think about people who are like red, green colorblind and things like that. Like it could adjust those colors to make them a bigger spectrum difference so colorblind people could actually see those things.
Yeah.
A million things. A million positive aspects. That's more AR kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Using like AR motion tracking of your environment. That's very cool. Changing the world around you to be a different thing seems to me to be a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't know why you would entirely want to do that. Especially, I love that you're right. It's not some boring environment he was walking in. It was already a beautiful boardwalk.
Like I would love to be there on that day. I'd love to people watch and see the people, say hello, grab a drink, see the ocean. And this guy's like, Minecraft.
So speaking of AR and VR, one big aspect of these systems going forward is voice. And we've talked about like the implementation of like the Her thing where you just have a little earpiece and then you have a little camera looking out at your world. But today we already have the Meta Ray bands and it has a voice assistant that you can talk to. But, the voice is fairly normal. It is operating off of an LLM. But this, as well as just general AI from Meta, is about to get better with their new Spirit LM. So this is their advanced version of voice that I think includes expression and emoting and all sorts of stuff. And it's kind of the one that's going to take on the current voice that you get from ChatGPT that's very good and impressive. Versus right now, if you use the Meta Ray bands, it's good, but it's very much a AI-powered voice.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before, the difference between, say, the Siri voice or the old Google Home voice and all these kind of things, and what ChatGPT will do is remarkably different, like light years different, man. Like if you're, and I bring it up because I'm using ChatGPT voice a lot for things these days, and it's so natural, so emotive, like this thing is talking about here, that when you go back to hear how Siri talks, and you never even notice it really, because you always, that's just how virtual assistants sound, but their lack of emotion is stark when you experience an LLM or an AI thing with a fake emotional overlay on it.
Yeah.
And it makes you more engaged to talk with it, right? Like, and I think it makes you use the LLMs better when there's that little bit of an emotional cue in it. And this is weird. And this does get into a little dystopian kind of stuff. And we talked a lot about how people are going to fall in love with their AI assistants and stuff like that. But it does make using it better, and I'll tell you why. Here's a kind of a more specific example, is that when you talk to Siri and it comes back with that robotic voice, and it's not, it's not true robotic, it's robotic compared to everything else, you talk back to it in a very voice command way, because that's what you've had to do. When you are talking to ChatGPT and you're in 4.0 and you can interrupt it and start talking to it, you realize how powerful that thing is and the type of things you can ask it and how you can talk to it. It's like, oh, I don't need to lay out everything, right? It can figure out, it can infer things based on my conversation. And the more natural it sounds to you, the more natural you sound back at it. And it makes it a much better tool. And I have switched from being primarily a type GPT user to a spoken word GPT user because of that.
Yeah, it's very, very good. So that is exciting to see that Meta's coming out with their competitor, especially since they already have a product for it. You know, you can use GPT obviously on the phone, but they have the glasses.
Yeah.
So everyone that has these glasses can do that. I purposely bought like the extended return window on the Meta Ray-Bans because I wasn't sure I'd keep them. But now that I'm seeing like updates like this come, which I don't think it's actually guaranteed that this update is coming shortly to the Ray-Bans, but it's like inevitable that their LLM, whatever's their best, would make it down to this product. But in any case, I find myself wanting to keep them to experiment with all this latest stuff.
That's pretty cool. And when I used your Ray-Bans, which was just in this room a little bit, so not crazy, I felt the voice was pretty good, I felt, but it was more like a Siri Plus, not like a, you know, Scarlett Johansson from Her kind of level thing, right? It was like, it fell in between that somewhere. So yeah, like, and you're right though. Like this thing does get me kind of interested in getting something like the Meta Ray-Bans, right? And it gets me more interested in what Meta is doing a little. I've always kind of like on this podcast many times been like, oh, the Meta thing's kind of whatever. I've never been super impressed with Llama, but they're making strides with it, and it seems that Zuckerberg and his leadership team there is saying like, hey, this is a pillar of our future business. We're going to invest in this. And it's certainly a better investment than the metaverse. So, so I'm excited to see what they do with this. And maybe it'll get me to buy these Ray-Bans. What do those things retail at?
I think it's $300 to start, and then prescription goes up like $380 or something.
Yeah. Well, I'll wait for the next generation of that. But you know, especially if it has this kind of improved voice features, that's a bigger selling point. And we've talked many times on this podcast, what's the monetization strategy for AI?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist right now, right? And really the only way it's going to work is its incorporation into hardware. Selling hardware is what's going to make money, not people paying $10 a month for a subscription to an LLM.
Yeah, because that subscription price to make it profitable would have to be more expensive than
we'd
people
be
are willing to pay.
$200 a month or something, right? Yeah, it'd be crazy high. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's the latest coming for the Ray-Bans and that AI space. But it does make me think about the visual intelligence that Apple should be enabling probably in 2025 for the iPhone and all their Apple Intelligence devices. Hopefully we'll hear a little more about Apple Intelligence at Apple's event next week, but we know we're getting M4 Max and hopefully that Mac Mini.